YouTube, welcome back to another KingJvpes video. Now today we're going to be talking to you guys about 5 potential reasons your photography is not improving. Maybe lately you felt stagnant, or maybe you feel like you're stuck and your photography is not improving at all. No matter what you try or how many other lenses you go and buy, your photography kind of still looks the same and it's kind of getting that same feedback. So what are those root causes that, allow us to kind of be stuck in this position? What is gonna really hold us up? And I've kind of thought about it for a while and also compiled from my personal experiences my top 5 reasons why my photography wasn't improving. Alright, number 1, not being able to accept criticism. Criticism is probably the biggest and most fearful thing that I felt when I was still starting photography, because you work so hard to get this image. You use the most expensive camera that you can afford, and yet you make that image and people don't necessarily seem to like it. And so you feel down, and then maybe you ask a friend saying, hey, does my image look good? And they criticize your image. Now, criticism is honestly the best way you can improve your photography, but you also have to be able to accept it. But hold up right there. There's a difference between actual criticism that's gonna help you and just straight up being rude. If somebody sounds like they're just attacking you, or they're just kind of, bullying you down on that image, don't take that. That's not criticism. Criticism should be there to kind of tell you what they like, but also what you can improve on. So you should never feel threatened when you get criticized. The first thing I would do is learn to accept criticism. Ask your parents first, ask your closer friends, but tell them straight up, like, hey, I really want to know your honest opinion. And when you're comfortable enough to get your images criticized by other people out there, other photographers, do so, because by then you'll be able to kind of have that confidence in not being scared of people criticizing your photos. That's the first thing, learning to accept criticism and applying that to your photography little by little. Number 2, blaming environmental factors. Now, this is something that I was really guilty of doing when I first started shooting, because I picked up a camera around that fall winter season and I always told myself, oh wow, it's too cloudy, or there's not enough light coming out. Blaming environmental factors is honestly one of the things that can really hold you back, because there are ways to go around it, and this is what's going to help you improve as a photographer. Just because it's not the perfect day outside, for you to go out and shoot what you want to shoot, doesn't mean you can't do it. You got to find different ways of doing so, and in that middle process of finding how you're going to make this image, you're going to grow a lot more. Improvise, be resourceful, and just try to put everything together to make that image the best that you can. So the next time you want to shoot portraits out in the sunlight, but unfortunately it becomes cloudy, don't just stay in the house and not do it at all. Still go do that shoot and find a way to make that image. That's how you're going to improve, and that's another thing that might be holding you back. Number 3, kind of playing hand in hand with what we just talked about, obsessing over gear, which leads to blaming your gear. If you're new into photography and you bought the newest entry-level camera and you go online to look at reviews and you realize, wow, my camera isn't actually, as great as I thought it would be. Don't go out buying the newest, most expensive camera, because to be honest with you, cameras don't mean shit. And I say that because if you look at some of the images that photographers in the past, from the 50s, from the 70s, the 80s, all of those guys back then, they made really powerful images with film cameras. Images where they couldn't adjust exposure right after they took the image. With digital nowadays, we have the ability to do that. So don't obsess over gear. Or maybe if you're one of those gear fanatics, I have no problem with that. I myself obsess over gear all the time. But I constantly kind of tell myself, that photography isn't always about gear, because you can still make powerful images with a really cheap camera. It's about how the photographer uses the tool rather than how great that tool is. You give Gordon Ramsay, the shittiest stove and pot and the same vegetables, and you give yourself a stove and pot that's worth $1 million, who's gonna make the better food? Gordon Ramsay is going to make the better food. I used that before because it's a way to kind of put yourself in a perspective that no matter what tools you have, if you know how to use them, you can still create something beautiful. So if you are like me and you obsess over gear, try to take it down a notch and realize that any camera will do, and try to hone in on your actual photography skills. Number 4, limiting yourself to one type of photography. Now, last year, I was really big on portraits, and I always focused on that. For hours and hours on the day, I would look at portrait stuff, portrait tips, learning portraits, taking workshops about portraiture. And eventually what happened was I got hired to do like an event type of photography. But what I realized was that, hey, I only know how to take portraits. So like 99% of what I took that day was like portrait shots, and it didn't really fulfill what the person needed. And so I kind of thought to myself, I was like, wow, you know, how did I end up doing this? I thought I had everything locked down. And that's because I limited myself to only one type of photography. Something that you can do that's going to help you massively is to be a generalized photographer and just to learn little things here and there about different types of photography. Maybe for a whole week, dedicate yourself to a different type of photography like architectural stuff, and then try the next week, go into street photography. Then after that week, try something else like landscape photography. And what you'll realize within that month of learning different types of photography is that there are very similar techniques found in every single genre. And what you can do is pull the good juice out of all of that stuff and put it into one cup and keep that cup with you everywhere you go. It's all about pulling out the certain techniques that you can use, because as photographers, we have to learn everything. We are not going to be here just to focus on portrait photography or landscape photography. When the time comes around, just being a generalized photographer is the best thing you can do. So just go out there, learn a lot about photography, whether it be automobile, landscape, portraiture, architectural, street photography, and apply all of those techniques to yourself. And by God, this has been the most eye-opening thing for me about learning photography, just learning different types of it and really applying myself into every given situation. And last but definitely not least, number 5, becoming stagnant and not setting new goals or new challenges for yourself. Now, what do I mean about being stagnant? Usually what it means in photography is kind of developing this routine that you do every time you go out and shoot, and you always follow that same routine, and you ask yourself, like, why isn't my photography improving, or why do my images all look the same? It's because you've got so comfortable with what you've been doing. Maybe it worked the first time and you felt great about it, but you continue to do the same thing over and over and over again to the point where you're stagnant, you're stuck, and you're not moving. So something that I do to break my routine is I always throw myself curveballs. I set myself new challenges and new goals. Some of the challenges that I do is I'll go out there and I'll say, today I will only take pictures with a point and shoot, when originally I planned to go out that day with an SLR. Or other days I'll challenge myself to make a 5-page small series zine about just taking images that all kind of relate to each other and putting that together to make yourself a little series. If there's something out there, whether it be portrait photography, street photography, or something else that you really admire and enjoy and you're passionate about, set yourself up for a new challenge, set yourself up a new goal, and every time you complete that goal, set yourself another one. And over time, as you're accomplishing all of these goals, you're gonna see your photography start to tweak. And remember, you guys, change is good. Change is always gonna be good. And that is the way you improve it. You gotta accept the fact that your photography is always gonna be changing. It's inevitable. Your photography is gonna change. There are gonna be good parts, there's gonna be bad parts. So if you're comfortable and you're stuck in this routine because it worked one time and you felt really good about it, break that routine. That's the only way you're gonna improve your photography in that situation. Alright, you guys, so that's gonna wrap it up for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Really quick, leave in the comment section down below if you fell into any of these 5 reasons why you're not improving your photography, and also comment how you can kind of improve it and move on forward. I'm learning myself and we're all learning together, and that's why we've created this channel, and I appreciate every single one of you guys. The next video will contain the 30K giveaway. Again, thank you guys so much from the bottom of my heart for, you know, taking the time of your days to watch these videos and to stick around. So thank you for watching again, and as always, Minolta gang.